Hi guys, welcome back to Writing Time with Miss Megan. Yesterday we had a special guest, Miss Susan, and she taught us how to make shakers. So, to get ready for Earth Day, I used some recycled materials from my own house to make a shaker on yesterday's writing video. Today, I'm going to show you how I make the picture plan of my how-to for how to make a shaker. Awesome. Follow along if you made a shaker too. You can also try to make your very own how-to video, but it's important to do a picture plan and for us to write out the steps first. Then you could try making your own video on a how-to of your shaker. Let's get started!
So the first thing I did is I picked my writing utensil. I'm making sure I have those duck pinching fingers on my writing utensil, and I need to draw 2 lines to show the steps of how to make my shaker. And you'll see I outlined my steps, but I'll talk you through it as I do first, next, and then next. I outlined it because I'm doing it upside down, but since you'll be doing it on a flat surface or table, you don't need to outline yours. You can just get started with your writing utensil. So the first thing I did is I went back and I thought about the steps that I listed. Number 1, I needed to find something from my recycling that had a lid, which could close, to make a shaker out of. And I needed to take the label off and clean it. That was step number 1. Find a container, take the label off, and clean it. So here's my bottle. Thinking about my curvy lines and my shapes. And I'm not going to forget those labels. Here's my label that says it's a bottle. And I'm going to draw the step of taking the label off because I think that's important. When we clean it, we need to remember to take the label, anything else off. And I'm going to draw some arrows to show that I'm peeling this label back in case my audience is wondering what's happening here. And I need to label that this on my bottle is a label so my audience knows that the first step is to take the label off once you find your container. Awesome. So I labeled label. Great. So that's step number 1. I made sure that I labeled important details that the audience might need to have so that when they're looking at the picture plan, they know that this is a bottle, that they need to find a bottle, and that this is a label. And the arrows help to show that it's being peeled back. Great. Now I need to think about my step number 2. When we listed the how-to and steps for our how to make a shaker, we talked about first finding a bottle and cleaning it up, or any kind of container which has a lid that can close when we shake. Step 2 is to fill it with something that makes noise. In this case, I filled mine with rice. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a picture plan of step 2. And while I'm making my picture plan, you guys can be thinking about what are some important things in this picture to label. Go ahead and draw my rice being poured in. And maybe you're saying them out loud, some important things that might need to be labeled. I did fill mine with ribbon, even though ribbon doesn't really make noise. I did put some in. My big thing that I put in that makes noise is the rice. Okay. Oh, I'm going to draw some little dots to show that I'm filling it with something. I'm going to show dots going into the container. That's my rice. You can see from my illustrations that I'm filling the bottle. Okay, go ahead right now and tell me what were some things that you came up with that might be important to label for step number 2 of my how to build a shaker. Great! Bottle would be important. We want to show that what we're filling is the bottle. I want to label rice so that my audience knows that I'm filling it with something that makes noise. And to be even more detailed, I could label that I did put some ribbon into the bottle as well. And I filled it with ribbon just to decorate the inside. But step 2 is really just to fill it with some things that will make noise. Awesome. Okay, so that was step number 1 and step number 2. When we listed the third step, we talked about what to do next after we fill it. And the next thing we need to do is we need to close the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and illustrate closing the lid. I'm thinking about my lines when I'm drawing my picture plan. Some things that might have curvy lines, some things that might have straight lines. I'm thinking about shapes. Okay, awesome. And I think to show that that this step is all about closing the lid, I'm going to illustrate a lid here. And I'm going to draw arrows to show that we're closing it, putting the lid on. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I'm ready to add some labels for step 3, which is to close the lid and decorate. Right now, go ahead and tell me what might be some important things to label in step number 3. Awesome, definitely the lid. O-I-D. That's one I can tap out. O-I-D, lid. The lid is important because it's probably the most important part, because we wouldn't want our shaker to explode if we shook it without a lid on. So that's really an important piece to label. I think I can label paintbrush because that will help me when I go back to write my words to remember that I want to mention that it needs to be decorated. Paintbrush. And oops, I used stickers, so maybe I want to label that this is a sticker. And I think this will help my audience to realize that I'm really decorating the bottle. Stickers, here's some ribbon. Okay, awesome. And here's my picture plan of how to make my shaker. Great. Now I'm ready for the last stage of writing a how-to story, which is to write my words. Maybe you filled yours with something different than rice. Maybe you filled yours with rice too. Maybe you decorated the container differently. Maybe you didn't use the bottle. It'll be interesting for us to read all the different ways that you guys made your shakers. Tune in tomorrow so that we can write some words for our how-to story. Your challenge after we complete this writing piece is to maybe try and make your own how-to video. I'm so excited to see what kind of picture plans you guys have and what kind of shakers you guys came up with. See you tomorrow!